Okay, I am back again here today with Giga Metals CEO Mark Jarvis. Now, this name, if you're in this industry, you likely know. If you're a nickel guy, you'll know the story. I've sat down with Mark a number of times and followed Giga for a while. They are the current owners of the Turnagain bulk tonnage nickel project in northern BC. Again, kind of just referencing the fact that I assume if you're listening to this, you have at least some sense of the nickel market. And I mean, elephant in the room is that there's been a significant nickel downturn. And so for that reason, big, very big bulk tonnage projects, despite their advantages that Giga has, there's just not necessarily a lot of appetite for it right now while the market kind of chews through the Indonesian HPAL glut. And so we're not actually here to talk about that. What I find interesting, what I think is encouraging coming out of Giga Metals here today is that, you know, they've been working on this deal in a tough market for Turnagain, and I'll hand it off to Mark here pretty quickly. You're switching gears now and you're starting to get active again, which I editorialize and think is a fairly smart choice. And so rather than just kind of sitting and resting and waiting for the market to turn or waiting for a bid, you are taking a little bit of charge of the situation here and starting to, just recently announced, looking for higher grade targets and getting back to getting back to the beginning with exploration again, looking for higher grade. So yeah, I guess I'll stop my little intro here, Mark, and I'll let you take over. Maybe can you just walk us through just very, very basically just the news release as is, maybe just the genesis of this idea when you decided you needed to try a new tack and just maybe just sort of ease us into this conversation?
You know, it's always been the case when you look at this mineralized system that we've got, that if you could ever find something high grade somewhere in the system, that would be the lever to lift the huge deposit off the ground. You could get your infrastructure set up. You know, if you find something high grade, you're making money at whatever the commodity price is. And so, you know, that's always been the dream. It's easier said than done. But I have always felt like, what are we missing here? You know, it just drives me crazy. Like maybe someday we sell this property and then the next owner finds Boise's Bay hidden in here. That would drive me crazy. So, and then you're right. About a year ago, the price of nickel took a turn for the worse. It's been there. They've overbuilt in Indonesia, all of that. That, this too shall pass. I just don't know exactly the time. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not going to sit around and wait for the nickel price to turn. Why don't we get fresh eyes on this data set that we've got? We've got tons and tons and reams of data. And let's get fresh eyes on it. And coincidentally, I've been watching some YouTube videos of a gentleman named Dr. Stephen Beresford, who has been a nickel exploration geologist his entire career, and who is an expert on certain types of nickel deposits, particularly Norilsk-style polymetallic nickel deposits. And I just looked at that and I thought, I like the way this guy thinks. I wonder if I could possibly get him interested. I just thought, we might as well take a shot at it. And I managed to Ali dug up his email, and I sent him an email, told him who I was and what the project was. And he came back and said, I've always been really intrigued by the Turnagain ultramafic intrusive. I thought, there's a good start.
Yeah.
So, again, I like the way this guy thinks. He is sort of academic, but he's not a pure academic. He's very practical. He's got just a wealth of experience in nickel exploration. And so he's an academic with a ton of real world experience. He's on the cutting edge of the theory, but he also understands all the different exploration techniques as a practical matter really well. So we went back and forth, and eventually he agreed to take a look at our data set. And we've got, like I say, reams and reams and reams of data. And his mission is not to find us more of the cloud of low grade that we've already got. And by the way, I mean, we could just keep stepping out. We could find more of it. I mean, we know from surface, we know where the low grade is. You could double, triple, whatever the size of our deposit. You just keep drilling. And we know from surface, and we know from drill holes 4 kilometers away that there's more of the same, plenty more. No, his mission was to find high grade. And he went through this, and it was just fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating for me as a layperson to sit in on the discussions. We've got 2 geologists on our side, Greg, who is also our project manager, and a woman named Kira Broda, who is doing her PhD thesis at McGill on controls of mineralization on the Turnagain ultramafic intrusive. Anyways, so he has come up with some targets, and we're already doing some work. His first suggestion was go reprocess your mag data. We've got reams and reams of old data, and our mag data was done. It's good data, it's solid data, but it was last processed about 15 years ago. And since then, the algorithms and the sheer computing power have advanced so much that he says, no, it's time to get it reprocessed. It'll cost about $10,000 plus or minus dollars, and it'll give us a much better picture structurally of what this thing looks like. And it will also inform, he's also strongly suggesting that we do a gravity survey, which is something that we've never done. But he can see some low-hanging fruit. He thinks we've got, high-grade targets, both high-grade massive sulfide nickel targets associated with the ultramafic intrusive. But we've also got, he thinks, what he calls a Volkovsky-style massive copper sulfide target underneath what we call the attic zone. And the attic zone is something where we've got a honking big copper anomaly in soils. And we actually explored that before 07. We were flush one year, and we did some drilling, sort of 100-meter drilling where we could conveniently get the drill in because we had this whole wide area. And we found a low-grade copper, platinum, and palladium everywhere consistently, but not enough to chase, not enough grade to chase. It was too low grade. Well, he's looking at that data and going, yeah, there's something underneath this. And so do your gravity, reprocess your mag, do your gravity survey. In places, the gravity survey will tell you where to do the survey, do ground survey, deep penetrating, and refine your targets. But there's something hiding under here, he thinks. So, or at the very least, it's a target.
So, if I may, I might jump in here, Mark, if I may just maybe talk a bit more about what work has yet to be done to get these things to drill ready then. How about?
Okay, well, a couple of things. There's something else that's ongoing, is that some of our drill holes that we've got samples of, we're getting reassayed for a larger suite of elements, because he thinks the drill holes themselves are maybe pointing towards a target. And he wants to see this whole suite of elements. But no, I've already said it. Actually, it's reprocess the mag, do the gravity survey, and then do a ground survey where indicated by the mag and the gravity survey. So that's kind of it. It's we're not looking shallow, because we've done a pretty good job looking at this thing, of 200 meters. It's below 200 meters where it's completely wide open. And part of it is that Steve thinks that this intrusive is standing upright. There was an interpretation, and again, a geologist will make an interpretation, and then succeeding geologists will just go, well, that's how it is.
Yeah.
It's based on some data. Some guy said, well, this will explain the data. Well, Steve guy says, no, I don't think so. I think it's like this. And so that completely changes how we look at this. And it completely opens up the possibility that there's accumulations of more massive sulfides at depth. Also, another target that I'm quite excited about is he thinks there's going to be breccia pipes. The way he put it, I'd be surprised if there weren't breccia pipes in this system. And he's talking about something that is similar to Agua Blanca, or similar. The slide is in there somewhere. I think the next slide, maybe. No? Yeah, there it is. This is a side view of the giant Mascot mine in British Columbia. And within it, there's these breccia pipes that are semi-massive and so higher grade. And he thinks that we should have some of these within the system. They may or may not come to surface. But, I mean, if they're semi-massive sulfide, if the grade's running like, 0.8 or 1% nickel, something like that, even if it's only 50 meters across and going to depth, that will change the economics, like vastly for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very worthwhile target, very exciting target, and easy to miss. If it's 50 meters across and we're drilling on 200 meter spacing and, more than that, it's these high-grade targets are small.
Mm-hmm.
They can be a massive mine economically,
mm-hmm.
physically be tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Boise's Bay is not big. Boise's Bay could be hiding in here, and it'd be like finding a needle in a haystack. But fortunately, we've got modern exploration techniques to help us out.
So, from inferring from what you've said, outright majority, all of the kind of potential new targets are coming from within the existing footprint of the deposit, or are there things further afield that maybe you're looking at as well?
Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's certainly several different target types within the Turnagain ultramafic complex. And those are interesting, and those are the ones I can really talk about. There are other target types that are leading us to look around a bit, both within our land package. And in fact, we added, we've done a bit of staking, but to cover what we think are potentially targets that were kind of on the border. Anyway, so we added some land. But we're also looking around regionally, just based on some of these ideas. So I'm not really going to talk, other than the fact that, the targets exist and they're really interesting. But for competitive reasons, I can't get into too much detail.
No, fair enough. And maybe we will, the kind of contact zones there, that third bullet point, I think people can, even if you're more of a layman, you understand what's happening there. Breccia pipes are understood. Maybe this is, it's new to me. And so if I guess I get to kind of call the shots, can you just give us a Reader's Digest rundown of what this necessarily means, right? When we talk about kind of Volkovsky-style.
I can try. Okay. I'm not a geologist. Volkovsky is a mine in Russia. And what you've got is massive copper sulfide and magnetite deposit. And that's what he thinks is happening here. That's what he thinks the attic zone is trying to create. And it is apparently this Volkovsky mine has the same setting as the Turnagain, according to Steve. So, and it's copper. So you get that optionality of if the nickel market's down and copper's up, I mean, if you can have a polymetallic system,
mm-hmm.
it's just a lot more resilient, because who cares if nickel's down today or up tomorrow, unless they're both down at the same time or both up at the same time. But typically they're not. And so you get a little more resilience because you're dealing with a larger suite of commodities. And by the way, in that area, there are also PGEs everywhere, platinum and palladium everywhere. And one of the things we need to find out more about is other species of PGEs. Niobidium, is it? I can't.
Yeah.
It's, again, I'm not a geologist, but he thinks there's real interest for that type of thing. Because again, within 100 meters of surface, it was copper, platinum, and palladium everywhere. Just low grade, evenly distributed,
mm-hmm.
but nothing that looked economic. And so, frankly, I'd written off the attic zone. I was not counting that as something that we were interested in exploring further until now. And that's why you get fresh eyes on something.
Well, let me, that's somewhat related. Are there historical attempts? I mean, obviously, Giga has had control of Turnagain for coming up 20 years now. Have there been historical attempts at finding high grade, or is this sort of the first, or has Turnagain always just been bulk tonnage?
One hole was what got me into this thing in the first place. By previous management, they hit 20 meters of 1% nickel, and it wasn't that deep. And I looked at that and went, well, there it is. You've got the bulk tonnage low grade, and you got high grade, and the company was in trouble at the time, and I ended up getting involved and taking over the company, and commodity prices were great then. It was quite easy to finance. We raised a lot of money, did a lot of drilling. Unfortunately, we did follow-up holes so that 20 meters of 1% nickel didn't find any tonnage. It's sort of like you need grade, but you also need tonnage. And we found sniffs of high grade on the margins here and there, like 3 meters, 4 meters here and there. But I don't think we ever had a real understanding of the genesis of the system. It's a big system, and how would we? But that's why you bring in a brain that is experienced and that has looked at many, many, many mineral deposits, and he can start making connections. It's kind of like here, and this was kind of like Volkovsky, and there's a bit of pattern recognition going on. Sorry. Again, fresh eyes. Mm-hmm. So I find this really exciting. Here's the other thing, Matthew, is that, as you know, we've been stuck in the tough part of the Lassonde curve for a few years. Development hell, they call it. It's not, it's not exciting. It's step by step by step. It's incremental. Sooner or later you get there, and sooner or later, you sell it for a whole bunch of money when the commodity's high. That's kind of the plan. In the meantime, it's kind of boring. This is not boring. This is, if we could hit anything, any one of these target types, it would transform the whole project, and it would be very exciting indeed. So I myself enjoy exploration more than I enjoy development, just because it's more fun. It's not necessarily more lucrative. It depends, but it is fun. It just gets my juices flowing.
It is, yeah, and it's a heck of a lot easier to sell the story to people too. And I think, a bulk tonnage nickel project, I think if you're looking at projects that would benefit heavily from getting even 2 or 3 years, as you kind of reference, even 2 or 3 years of production, of a high grade production to staple onto the front of that, like you say, it has a market and material impact on the whole product from start to finish, right? And so I think as I said, it makes a lot of sense. It's it's ensuring the validity of these targets and making sure that they are kind of viable. But I think that raising funds to pursue these makes more sense than just watching kind of the share price erode in a frustrating fashion, right? When, like you say, you're stuck in a Lassonde curve, nickel's in the doldrums. So rather than waiting for macro to change, take a certain degree of agency and approach this or attack this in a new light. So,
Matthew, you have nailed it. That's exactly right.
Well, can you, your initial news release was, just sort of an announcement of intent, so to speak, right? Can you maybe either give us a bit more detail about the imminent campaign in terms of, the technical reports, recommendations, in terms of what needs to happen next? Can you give us a little bit of details of what you're hoping to see in terms of holes or meterage or number of targets or just campaign size in general? Or failing that, can you maybe explain when the market might expect kind of a more detailed update in terms of what Dr. Beresford and your PhD student there, future Dr. Broda, is working on for you?
Yeah. Well, what's underway right now is, as I said, reprocessing our mag data. And that's in process. I'm hoping to see something in a week or so. And then it'll take some time to analyze it and give it some thought. But it'll give us a lot more clues about the orientation of this ultramafic intrusive. Now, it's not one intrusive. There's many phases of intrusion here. So it's a complex, is what they call it. It'll give us a lot more clues, and it might give us more clues about, for example, pressure pipes. And then the next step is a gravity survey. But apparently by combining the gravity and you can eliminate most of the false positive, never all of them. But you can really home in on what to focus with further ground or loop. And apparently you can see very deep with this stuff. So I'm excited about that because we're going to get a better picture emerge. Then sooner or later, you got to bring in Dr. Drill, the truth machine, and see what's actually there. And that's the part I look forward to. Hopefully we could get to that. And I think we will be able to get to it, given adequate funding by the end of the first year of exploration. And then year 2 would be quite a lot of drilling. But I'd love to get to something. I'd love to get some drilling done the very first season of it.
So just a quick follow-up, just sort of an extension or a rephrasing of the previous one, but when might we expect to see that, like you say, layering the mag and the grav, when might we expect the market to see some update on that front, or just in general?
Well, I guess we'll see the mag in a week or so, and then it'll be analyzed. So maybe some kind of report about the mag in a month or so, plus or minus, maybe even sooner. And then the rest of it's going to require going to site and doing the work. And you don't really get going until basically the exploration season up there is June till maybe into October. It's just, you could explore there year round. It'd be a lot more expensive. You'd have to be shoving snow around, and you don't want to be doing that. Now, by the way, up in that area, operating an open pit mine is actually more, people don't realize this, is more efficient in the winter than it is in the summer. So if you're mining, it's not a seasonal thing. It's a year-round thing for sure. Exploration is more seasonal just due to the costs involved. So yeah, that would be it. It would be June. So we're in the meantime, I'm going to be looking at where the money comes from.
Yeah.
I've got a number of discussions underway in that regard as well.
Is there anything I'm missing that you wanted to discuss?
Well, I guess the one thing I do want to say is so I'm finding it a pretty easy pitch to the people that I'm talking to. Like most exploration plays, you got nothing. And but you got this target, you've got that target. If we hit some other load, we all get rich. That's fantastic. But if we don't hit, we still got nothing. In this case, we have got a massive cloud of low-grade nickel. It's easy metallurgy. It's a low strip ratio. It makes a beautiful concentrate that you can sell to anyone. And it's extremely levered to the nickel price. So we're going to go exploring. And if we don't hit anything, we've still got what we've always had. And at some point, the nickel price turns around again, as it always does. It goes up, it goes down. It's a cyclical business. And, the low-grade deposit all on its own comes back into play. But, so I guess that's my point is if you miss, you're not left with nothing. But also, where do you find a mine? You find a mine close to a mine. And in our case, close to a deposit. We've got so many drill holes and so much data and just so much information about this. And it's all mineralized. So it's just, where is the sulfide mineralization more massive, or at least even net textured or semi-massive? I mean, it could do wonders for your grade.
No, well put. Well, no, I won't belabor the thing. I think at this point, we'll just give a couple months. I'll get you back on. We can chew the fat a bit more on a wider range of topics. But I think for now, news update. Giga Metals, there's a pulse. They're up off the mat, and they'll be working to drive discovery once again at Turnagain. So Mark Jarvis. Yeah, thanks, Mark, and we'll talk again soon. Cheers.
Okay, great. Cheers.